So today, we're going to talk about a game that doesn't just challenge the world's best players. It's a game that seems to challenge the very idea of what it means to be an expert. A game that was basically designed to break the minds of chess grandmasters.
But before we dive into that rabbit hole, let's start with a really basic question. We all know chess grandmasters are brilliant, right? But what's actually going on inside their heads? Is it all just raw calculation, like a supercomputer crunching millions of moves? Well, it turns out the science points to something way cooler and much more elegant than that.
Okay, let's get into it. The secret, the real magic behind a grandmaster's skill, isn't about brute force. It's about this incredibly rich, structured, and almost perceptual understanding of the board that they've built up over thousands and thousands of hours.
At the heart of it all is this concept called chunking. And honestly, the best way to think about it is like reading. Right now, you're not seeing individual letters on the screen. You're seeing words, phrases, whole sentences. A grandmaster's brain does the exact same thing with a chessboard. They don't see a lonely pawn, a knight, and a bishop. No, they see a fianchettoed bishop structure, a familiar attacking formation they've seen 1,000 times before. And that frees up all their mental bandwidth to think about the big picture.
And building right on top of that, you have something called templates. Now, if chunks are the words, templates are like the entire story. They're these super flexible, high-level blueprints in a grandmaster's mind. A template doesn't just store a position. It holds the whole strategic plan that goes with it. The best moves, the hidden dangers, how the game is probably going to play out. It's how a master can just glance at a ridiculously complex board for a few seconds and remember it perfectly.
So this whole amazing system of expertise, these chunks, these templates, all of it, it all depends on one crucial thing: stable, recognizable patterns. So what happens if you design a game specifically to tear all of that apart?
And that, my friends, is where Chess Reverse comes in. This isn't just a chess variant. It's a metagame that was developed over 2 decades with the explicit goal of pushing these cognitive limits way past the breaking point.
You know, Chess Reverse wasn't just some single flash of inspiration. It grew, it evolved, systematically over 20 years. As you can see here, each step on this timeline just piled on another layer of complexity. It started with one simple, elegant twist and grew into this multi-dimensional monster. Let's look at the core ideas.
Every single one of these innovations is like a little bomb designed to blow up your strategy. Reversible pieces? That means your own bishop could suddenly turn on you and become your opponent's. Piece reintroduction? That means the board can just get flooded with new threats at any moment. And then, asymmetric and switching rules? That means you can't rely on any single strategy because the very ground beneath your feet is constantly shifting.
So what does this actually feel like to play? Well, let's climb the ladder of difficulty together. You're going to see just how fast the cognitive demands escalate into something else. We start with classic chess, which, already requires a huge amount of skill. We're using a metric here called a QI score. Think of it as a measure of the game's cognitive intensity. And for chess, it's around 100-120. Then we add piece flipping. Boom, the QI goes up. Then we add piece reintroduction. Up it goes again. By the time you get to infinity speed, which mashes all these mechanics together for pure attack potential, we're already way up in the 135 to 155 range. But believe me, this is just the beginning.
Because, you see, the game can also be tweaked to be, well, a little bit cruel. It can be set up to target and totally overload one specific part of your brain. Let's take working memory, for instance.
This brings us to the ultimate colorblind universe. Just try to imagine this. Every single piece on the board is the exact same color, except for one of the kings. That means you have to remember which piece belongs to who and what it is based on nothing but your pure memory. The cognitive load is just immense. We are talking a 300% increase in memory demand, which leads to a truly staggering 700% spike in errors. It's been nicknamed Mindbreaker, and yeah, that name fits perfectly.
But what's the absolute ceiling? What's the tippity top of this cognitive mountain? What happens when you combine everything we've talked about? Dynamic rules, reintroduction, memory overload, and then you just take the board away completely.
Well, then you get the Nexus Aether universe. Now, this is a purely theoretical game. It's played entirely in your head, no physical board, no pieces, and the fundamental rules of the game completely shift every 6 moves. The estimated QI score to even attempt this is astronomical. We're talking 180 to over 210. That is pushing far, far beyond the observed limits of traditional human expertise.
So what this all really proves is that chess reverse isn't just a harder version of chess. It's not just chess on steroids. It demands a fundamentally different way of thinking. Let's break down exactly what that cognitive shift looks like.
This table really lays it all out. In regular chess, experts get good by recognizing stable, static patterns. In reverse, those patterns are constantly changing, they're polymorphic. Where a chess master's brain learns to bypass working memory using those brilliant chunks and templates, reverse is designed to completely flood it, to saturate it. And maybe most importantly, learning chess is about acquiring deep knowledge of one system. Learning chess reverse is about acquiring meta-knowledge, the ability to learn and adapt to many different systems, all on the fly.
So, after all that, what does a game like this, a game this mind-bending, ultimately tell us about the nature of human expertise itself?
Well, it suggests that our whole traditional model of expertise, becoming the world's best at one single stable thing, might actually be incomplete.
Could it be that the true pinnacle of cognitive skill isn't just about depth, but also about breadth? Is it possible that the ultimate expert isn't someone who has mastered one set of rules, but someone who can fluidly and effectively switch between many of them?
And that leads us to this final, really profound takeaway from all this. Perhaps the expert of tomorrow won't be a specialist who knows one thing perfectly. Maybe they'll be a généraliste des systèmes complexes, a generalist of complex systems, someone whose core skill is adaptation itself, a mind that's built not for stability, but for a world that is in constant, perpetual change.